It's week 2 of GarbAugust. And GarbAugust is a reading event that was created by criminally Ollie. And it's the whole of the month August, and we read trashy books. Are they bad books? No, they're quite fun to read. So week 2 is a vintage smut or paperbacks from hell. Yeah, I had to think for a minute. And I chose paperbacks from hell. But as I don't have, the really hardcore paperbacks from hell from the 1970s and 1980s, you have to make do, or I had to make do, with one old paperback horror pocket. And that is this little gem, 20 Great Ghost Stories. As it is, a pulpy pocket that I consider this a trashy book. Although the writers in this book, who aren't credited in this book, by the way, are, at least 2 I know of, hardly trashy writers. And I think the other stories were just excellent. All stories were just excellent. But 2 stories sprung out, as you can say. And the first one was Black Cat, and it was written by Edgar Allan Poe. I did have 3 cassettes when I was a teenager with Edgar Allan Poe stories on them, and I found them horrifying. Really, I had nightmares. And one was The Pit and the Pendulum, and The Mask of the Red Death was one, and I don't remember what was on the 3rd cassette. But the Black Cat is, about a man who gets a black cat and things start to happen to this man. It's really a good story, and it reminded me a bit of those old comics, weird comics or weird science or something those were called. I think those were from the 1960s. I think those writers must have been influenced by Edgar Allan Poe. Another writer whose name I also heard was Guy de Maupassant. I didn't know he wrote horror stories, but a friend of mine collects his books, and he's really also an excellent horror writer. And the story, The Flayed Hand, was exceptionally excellent. It's about a man who brings home a severed hand, and it's really horrific and gruesome. But it's also a little bit humoristic in a bizarre kind of way, because the way his friends react to him bringing the severed hand, which is bizarre. The humor in it, it's just bizarre, but it's the way people react when they had too much to drink. They don't take things too seriously. But it was a real severed hand, and things start to happen from there. Some stories, I don't know who wrote them. Nobody knows who wrote them. Other stories are written by people I never heard of, but I'm not a big horror writer connoisseur, so I don't know much about it. But maybe you've heard of, and I have to look, maybe you've heard of Frederick F. Schrader, if I pronounce it right, or Arnold M. Anderson, or Eleanor F. Lewis. If you heard of them and read anything by them, let me know in the comments, because I'd like to know a little bit more about these writers. But other writers, they're obviously pseudonyms. A witness, a traveler, Well, they have to be pseudonyms. Anyway, if you see this little pocket, it says on the back, not for reading after midnight. But they're hardly, if you were used to modern hardcore horror, they're not scary, but they're such fun. I'm not used to hardcore horror, so I read it during daylight. But if you like old-fashioned kind of, old school, not old-fashioned, old school kind of horror, and you come across this book at a jumble sale or a thrift store, bring it home and give it a loving home, because it's really fun to read. Well, that was week 2 of GarbAugust. Well, are you reading any good trashy book? Let me know in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.